"Get out of here or I'll kill everyone." Yeah, let's just dive right into this, because that is not a line from some cheesy horror movie. That is a very real, very terrifying auditory threat reported by a young mother. And it completely sets the stage for the deeply chilling 1987 account we're unpacking in today's Explainer. We are looking at the absolute nightmare that unfolded for the Majumdar family, and honestly, it is a masterclass in real-life suspense. So welcome to the Explainer, everyone. I am so incredibly excited to guide you through this fascinating, narrative-driven account of the Gandhinagar haunting. We're going to break down exactly what happened when a very practical, deeply skeptical man named Ramesh Majumdar made what turned out to be a fateful decision to relocate his family to a new neighborhood in Delhi. Let's look at how this seemingly ordinary, everyday move turned into an absolute nightmare. All right, let's get into Section 1, a cheap room in Delhi and the 1987 move. To really understand the terror of this account, we first need to establish the completely ordinary world this family was living in. Ramesh worked in a very pragmatic, grounded government position for the railways. He started off with their family home in West Bengal, then was stationed in Rewari, Haryana. That meant he was living about 1,500 kilometers away from his wife and 2 young boys. Finally, in 1987, after a transfer to the Gandhinagar neighborhood of Delhi, his 4-year-old son Sarthak, his 2-year-old brother, and their mother finally get to reunite with him. You know, it really should have been this happy, exciting new chapter for them, but there were immediate red flags that Ramesh just entirely ignored. On paper, it looked great. The room had incredibly cheap rent, and it was located on the exact same street as Ramesh's sister, which meant built-in childcare and family support. However, his sister gave him an explicit, dire warning. She literally told him, no one can stay there for long. But Ramesh, being intensely practical and logically minded, brushed it off. He fell right into the landlord's trap, paying a really hefty 2-month rent advance just to secure this bargain. So let's talk about the house. The layout of this new home was deceptively normal. You walk into an open area with these large mango and jamun trees. The elderly landlord and his wife live down in the ground floor quarters, which is also where the only bathroom is located. You go up the stairs to a first-floor corridor, and there are only 2 rooms up there. One is Ramesh's family room. The other, directly adjacent to theirs, is permanently locked. The landlord claimed it was strictly reserved for his son, who was visiting from the US. But I want you to remember that locked room, because it is the absolute epicenter of this entire account. Moving on to Section 2, shadows in a locked room and the first warning. Almost immediately after arriving, the atmosphere shifted. Sarthaka's mother, who the account describes as being pretty sensitive to energy, felt this unnatural, heavy unease pressing down on her within the very first few days. This all culminated on her first evening truly alone in the apartment, while Ramesh was working late in Rewari. First, she's just sitting on a cot near her open door, cooking dinner on a gas stove. Completely normal, right? Second, a bulb out in the corridor casts a shadow on her curtain, and it's the unmistakable silhouette of someone walking right past her room. Third, she immediately steps out to investigate, fully expecting to see someone entering that adjacent room. But she finds the heavy padlock entirely undisturbed. The room is locked tight. Nobody went in. Of course, when Ramesh gets home, he simply tells her she's imagining things. But then, the very next day, the illusion of safety completely shatters. Sarthak's mother is downstairs washing clothes when 4-year-old Sarthak comes running down, screaming in absolute terror. He says he's sitting upstairs with his baby brother and something is terribly wrong. The mother rushes up to find her 2-year-old just sitting on the bed, staring straight ahead, laughing, as if he's interacting with an invisible entity. Now, back in Bengal, she used to playfully scare Sarthak to get him to eat his food by saying "Ha will come," which is a reference to an old childhood ghost myth. Standing in that room, that silly myth had suddenly become a terrifying reality. She literally grabs her kids and flees straight to the aunt's house. Which brings us to Section 3. The invisible threat escalates. Physical attacks. Up until now, the haunting had mostly been visual, shadows, and really eerie feelings. But the entity rapidly pivoted to undeniable physical interactions, and they happened in rapid-fire succession. During an afternoon nap, Sarthak's mother wakes up to find her heavy winter blanket being gently but deliberately pulled away from her body. Later that evening, while cooking, she hears a distinct knock on the window. She walks toward it, only to freeze. She realizes they are on the first floor. The window is literally suspended high over a narrow, empty alleyway. No one could possibly be knocking on it from the outside. And exactly as she realizes this, An angry, guttural growl erupts from right outside the glass. Sarthik's mother runs screaming down to the landlord, leaving the kids upstairs for just a split second. When they return, they find 4-year-old Sarthik crying uncontrollably. He points and says, "Mom, how did he come? How did he come? He will take us with him." This just perfectly illustrates the severe psychological toll this invisible entity was taking on a very young child. And the landlord's response to all this panic? He weakly suggests it was probably just a cat. Yeah, a cat. But it absolutely wasn't a cat. By Sunday morning, the violence peaks. While making breakfast, Sarthak is literally thrown from the bed, crying out, "Mom, you pushed me!" As the mother desperately tries to comfort him, a woman's voice whispers directly into her ear, "Get out of here, or I'll kill everyone." Terrified, the mother grabs Sarthak and makes a run for the stairs. As they descend, a violent physical force pushes the mother from behind. They both violently tumble down the hard stairs, and Sarthak suffers a bleeding head wound. And yet, incredibly, the pragmatic Ramesh comes out, sees the blood, and actually scolds his wife for being clumsy. Let's look at Section 4, Face to Face with Terror, and the skeptic breaks. Even after the violence on the stairs, Ramesh forced them to stay. But that evening, he sent his family to the aunt's house for dinner while he stayed behind alone to write a letter to his parents. The ultimate skeptic was finally isolated in the space. And as he's writing, then knocking starts, right on the window directly behind him. Ramesh, being a logical man to a fault, assumes it must be some sort of highly acrobatic thief trying to break in. He grabs a stick, smashes it against the window frame, and yells out a warning that he's going to call the police, and the knocking stops. But then, the air in the room just grows incredibly heavy. He feels this intense, burning gaze boring into him from the window. Ramesh stands up and pulls back the curtain, and what he sees completely and instantly shatters his lifelong skepticism. Suspended in the air, right outside that first-floor window, is a terrifying apparition. It's a girl floating in the dark alleyway. Her eyes are impossibly wide, her hair is draped over a horrifying face, and she is staring directly into his eyes. And then she speaks. The entity delivers a final, devastating threat directly to Ramesh. "Do you want to get out of here alive, or I'll kill everyone?" Confronted with absolute, undeniable terror right in front of his face, Ramesh's practical worldview just crumbles. He drops everything, abandons the room immediately, and runs straight to his sister's house. He is a completely changed man. Which takes us to our final section, Section 5, The Tragic Secret Revealed, and the Landlord's Lie. The very next morning, Ramesh marched straight up to the landlord. He didn't even mention the ghost. He just demanded to vacate immediately, completely willing to abandon his hefty 2-month rent advance. Once they were safely out, the family uncovered the deeply tragic and horrifying backstory from neighborhood locals, revealing exactly why the landlord was so desperate to get them in there. First, the landlord had a 22-year-old daughter who fell in love, but the parents forbade the marriage. In her despair, she committed suicide right there in that permanently locked adjacent room. Second, because of the parents' hurt egos, they actually improperly performed her last rites, leaving a vengeful spirit trapped and a curse lingering over the entire house. And finally, the most horrifying secret of all, the previous tenant who had rented Ramesh's room had a young boy. That boy was pushed from the roof by an unseen force and died in the hospital. The landlord had covered up a totally fatal history. 9 days. That is exactly how long the terrified Majumdar family lasted in that cursed apartment. Despite the heavy financial burden of losing that 2-month advance, they barely made it over a week before the escalating terror forced them out. But leaving when they did is undoubtedly what saved their lives. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, leaving us with this final provocative thought. Is a cheap bargain ever worth the hidden cost? The 1987 Gandhinagar haunting is a chilling reminder that sometimes the things we get for a steal are paid for in entirely different, terrifying ways. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I really hope this breakdown helped you grasp the incredible suspense of this real-world account. Stay curious out there.